Marriage is collapsing, not slowly, rapidly, across cultures, across income levels, across belief systems. That does not happen by accident. I want to be careful here. This is not about blame. It is not about morality. It is about systems. Marriage was never just romance. It was structured. When marriage weakens, societies change, birth rates fall, households fragment, dependence shifts. That pattern repeats globally. Why does this question matter? Because understanding the how and why behind this massive social shift helps us navigate the future. It's not about pointing fingers or judging choices. It's about seeing the machinery of society and how its parts connect. The weakening of marriage as a core institution is one of the most significant social phenomena of our time, and its consequences are just beginning to unfold. We are seeing birth rates plummet, household structures fragment, and the relationship between the individual and the state fundamentally alter. This is happening everywhere, from Tokyo to Toronto, from Seoul to Stockholm. The pattern is undeniable. Historically, marriage served clear practical functions. It wasn't just about love. It was a system that stabilized reproduction, pooled economic resources, and enabled long-term planning for families. Think about it. This structure provided a predictable environment for raising the next generation. Children benefited from the stability. Communities benefited from the interconnected family units. States benefited because stable families are the bedrock of a stable society. Marriage reduced uncertainty. It lessened the direct burden on the state for social welfare and care. It increased predictability in everything from economic consumption to social behavior. That mattered a lot. This system, for all its flaws and complexities, provided a framework that societies relied upon for centuries to ensure continuity and manage their populations organically. It was the default social technology for ensuring that one generation successfully raised the next. Then came the massive shifts of the late 20th century. Divorce rates surged, not just in one country, but across dozens of nations. Different cultures, different economies, different political systems, but the same outcome. Marriage began to be delayed. It began to be avoided. And for those who did marry, it was dissolved at rates never seen before. At the exact same time, another dramatic trend emerged. Birth rates collapsed. Now, the correlation between these two phenomena, the decline of marriage and the decline of births, is not controversial. It's a statistical fact. The real question is why. What forces were powerful enough to simultaneously dismantle a cornerstone institution across the entire developed world? Was it economic change? Was it cultural shifts and individualism? Was it new technologies? Or was it something else entirely, a more deliberate, systemic pressure that we've failed to see? The quiet mechanics of how societies manage their populations are often invisible, but their effects are profound. When a system as fundamental as marriage is universally weakened, we have to look beyond individual choices and ask what larger forces are at play. What replaced the old system, and is the new one sustainable? That's the real mystery we need to unpack. Have you ever wondered why marriage rates and birth rates are falling across the developed world? It's a huge topic, and the reasons are far more subtle than you might think. Forget what you've heard about laws banning marriage or loud slogans attacking the family unit. That's not what's happening. The reality is a quiet, almost invisible shift in the incentives that shape our lives. Let's start with the economy. For many of our parents or grandparents, a single income was enough to support a family. Today, that's a luxury few can afford. The pressure for dual incomes is immense. This isn't just about wanting more stuff. It's about survival. It's about covering the mortgage, the bills, the groceries. And what happens when both partners have to work full-time? Time becomes the scarcest resource of all. You're exhausted. You're stressed. The energy needed to build and nurture a family just isn't there. The economic foundation that once supported marriage has eroded, leaving a much shakier ground for new couples. Then there's the legal side of things. The legal framework around marriage has also changed dramatically. Divorce, once a difficult and rare event, has become more common and, in many places, the legal risks are not symmetrical. This has injected a massive dose of uncertainty into what was once considered a lifelong commitment. People are now more cautious. When you significantly increase the risk associated with any activity, whether it's investing in the stock market or getting married, participation will inevitably drop. It's not a moral failure. It's a basic behavioral response to a high-risk environment. People are simply making a rational calculation based on the new rules of the game. So, when you put these pieces together, what do you see? You see a form of population management that doesn't use force or coercion. It's much smarter than that. It presents itself as individual choice. You choose to delay marriage. You choose not to have kids yet. But are these truly free choices, or are they choices heavily shaped and constrained by external pressures? Think about the hurdles a young person faces today. The astronomical cost of housing, the crushing weight of student loan debt, the mind-boggling expense of childcare, the constant worry about healthcare costs. Each one of these is a massive financial and psychological barrier. Each one of these pressures discourages long-term family formation. No government needs to pass a law saying don't have kids. The environment they've allowed to develop does the job for them. This is population management by environment, not by decree. It's a system that nudges us away from family life by making it incredibly difficult and risky. And this brings us to the inevitable consequence: falling birth rates. Marriage has historically been the primary anchor for reproduction in virtually every society. When that anchor is removed, birth rates decline. It's a pattern we see repeated across different cultures and countries. UKUNT just replaced the stability of marriage with a series of casual relationships and expect the same demographic outcome. These types of relationships tend to delay serious commitment and family formation, often permanently. And here, we run into a hard, unchangeable biological reality. Fertility declines with age, for both men and women. By creating a system that structurally delays marriage and childbirth, you are also structurally reducing the number of children that will be born. The delay isn't just a matter of timing. It has profound, irreversible consequences. This isn't about ideology or changing social values as a root cause. It's about a structural delay, driven by economic and legal incentives, that leads to a predictable demographic decline. The system itself is designed, whether intentionally or not, to produce this outcome. It's a complex and sobering picture. The decline of marriage and family isn't happening in a vacuum. It's the logical result of a series of quiet changes to the world we live in. Let's talk about culture. We often think of it as this organic, shared thing that just happens. But what if it's not? What if culture is really just a reflection of incentives? Think about it. Popular culture doesn't just show us what's happening, it reinforces it. It sets the rules of the game. Look at how relationships are portrayed today. Marriage is often framed as a cage, something restrictive that holds you back. Commitment, that's seen as a huge risk, a gamble you're probably going to lose. And independence, total self-reliance, is held up as the ultimate goal, the superior way to live. What do these messages do? They normalize avoidance. It's not about outright hating marriage or rebelling against the idea of family. It's much more subtle. It's about adapting to a world where those things seem impractical or even dangerous. We're taught to adapt to a system that disincentivizes long-term connection, and this isn't a new phenomenon. Culture has always followed economics. The stories we tell ourselves, the values we hold dear, they almost always track back to the economic realities of the time. Now, let's look at this through a historical lens. In the past, when systems wanted to control population growth, the methods were brutal and direct. We're talking about forced sterilization, selective breeding programs, and overt discrimination against certain groups. These methods were horrifying, and thankfully they failed morally. But they also failed socially. People resisted. The human spirit pushed back against such blatant oppression. Modern systems learned a crucial lesson from that failure. You don't need to use brute force when you can use subtle pressure. The iron fist was replaced by the invisible hand of social and economic incentives. The outcomes, however, ended up being surprisingly similar. Birth rates decline, families become more fragmented and less stable, and a population that is more isolated and disconnected is a population with lower resistance to systemic control. The pressure works, just more quietly. So, this brings us to a final, crucial question. One you should really ask yourself. If you see major shifts in population outcomes, things like fewer marriages, fewer children, more isolation, and these changes happen without any direct orders, without any violence, and without any new laws being passed, what are you actually looking at? Is that genuine freedom, where millions of people are independently choosing a new way of life? Or is it a form of management? A sophisticated system designed to guide behavior towards a specific, desired outcome, all while making you believe it was your choice all along? Freedom or management? The line can be blurrier than we think. This channel is dedicated to studying systems, not just repeating slogans. We dig into the mechanics of how our world works. If you find these questions as fascinating and important as I do, subscribe to The Incomplete Past, because history doesn't repeat loudly, with canons and declarations. It repeats efficiently, quietly, in the patterns we often fail to see. Thanks for watching.